Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a VOD review of a university team. They're actually playing a style of Valorant that's much more structured than ranked and much more focused on strategy than what you'll find in common 5-stacked ranked lobbies. I'll be going over composition picks, map strategy, positioning, formations, mid-rounding, and much more. The goal is to help this team understand their weaknesses on defense and attack and how they can alter their play to make executes, retakes, and holds much easier for themselves. Let's dive into the first few defensive rounds here. So in this round, I want you to focus on the Sova and how he's unable to rotate over to help out on A because of how his KJ is set up on C and on B. He sees the turret go down and he knows that there's going to be a gap in garage and on C. And so before rotating, he wants to stay there to make sure that nobody pushes those areas.
Take an Orb, wir haben Space getaggt. Zwei Short. Ah, scheiße, 250. Auf Short. Kann er jetzt hier zurück?
Gleich long.
Soll ich zu euch kommen?
Nein.
Ich meine, eigentlich hat meine Turret alles.
Wir haben noch Step auf long, glaube ich.
Also Silver und Omen sind low.
Smokes auf A.
Ja, Short Step.
Und full.
Spike planted.
Right here.
Nice. Einer outside.
Last player standing.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so I'm going to go in game just to explain the different things I saw in this round specifically. So you had Sova here on C site. I think you had KJ somewhere here on either B or garage. And then you had your Breach, Omen, and Jet playing over on A site. Nothing inherently wrong with the A site hold. I think that that's fine. I would rather see Omen play a little bit more passively towards back A link or maybe back B in order to be able to smoke any of these sites more efficiently. The big difference that I think you guys need to make, or the big shift that you guys need to make, is how you play on this side of the map. So the reason that this round went wrong for you guys, and I've watched the VOD, so I think it happens in a couple of additional rounds as well, is you guys did not play B and C the correct way for your composition, right? So there's nothing inherently wrong with Sova playing C, but when you add KJ to the mix, that's the incorrect approach to playing this map when you're talking about something like structured Valorant. Sova almost exclusively should be playing A. The reason being, he has two methods to get intel, meaning he can, for example, arrow a lobby to get intel, but then additionally he can drone A short or A long after the fact in order to get additional intel, right? What you saw in this round was early in the round, they called A, which are, those are good comms. You saw your KJ coming over to A in order to help out, which is fine, right? Like you're coming to help out your team. However, this KJ helping out on A leaves a gap right here. You see how this turret goes down? That turret now forces the Sova over here on C. So if I come back over to C, with that turret down, Sova now has to stay on C because you don't have any contact into garage and you don't have any contact into C cubby. So if the attacking team decides to rotate and mid-round their way back to C, you're going to be completely vulnerable to this hit. So what I want to see from you guys is an ability to understand the composition that you pick for defense specifically, and how that alters where you play on the map, right? It's super important. So let's take, for example, that KJ stayed here, right? Let's say KJ was playing C. She had her, mollies here or whatever. I think I saw a molly over on main. And KJ is just playing passively here for info, right? For contact, making sure her turret stays up, making sure her alarm bot stays up. And then instead of Sova playing on C site, let's say Sova played over on A site instead. And Omen was playing like somewhere in link. Like that's a pretty common setup. You had Breach, Sova, and Jet over here on A. If Sova's playing over on A site, he has much more utility to be able to assist his team here in order to get either quick picks on the entry when they're maybe scaling up quickly, or if Jet is trying to push A short, she can follow a drone. If Breach and Sova are playing here together, you can combo that utility to help your Jet out anywhere they want to take the fight. Okay, so let me explain the comp that I would rather see you all be playing here. So realistically, your KJ should be playing somewhere backlogs here on C site. Your Sova should be playing on A, and your Omen should probably be playing somewhere over here on A link or B link rather. Here's why this is important. Your Sova has the ability to cover both short and long with his intel gathering util. And then you can pair your Breach and your Jet with that information to properly set your Jet up for picks, right? In ranked, this is near impossible, but because you guys are playing a more structured style of Valorant, it's very important that you all understand the strengths of your composition. Again, KJ, if you're running a KJ on Heaven, your goal should be to play information across multiple areas of this site. So look at how this setup works. You essentially block their ability to push B effectively, to push garage effectively, and to push C effectively. That's not to say that they can't just disrespect this utility, you know, shoot it out and then immediately push B or immediately push garage. They absolutely can. That's not the point. The point is that if you're playing this type of Valorant where you have a real setup, your KJ can now lock down this entire area for you in terms of information, right? So KJ is not meant to lock down a site. She's meant to just give you the information that an enemy could be pushing in this direction. With your composition here, if you were to run your Sova over here on A, you can dart this direction, which is pretty common. You can also drone in this direction, which is pretty common. But what that does now is, now that you have information on where the enemy is here, the drone and the dart are kind of secondary in my opinion. It's now this pairing with your Breach and your Jet that's going to be important, right? So your Breach can help flash for your Jet. Your Breach can help stun for your Jet with that information that you guys do have. So it's more effective with your comp is what I'm saying if you ran this type of a setup versus the setup that you have now, which is your Sova's playing over on C, your KJ's playing over on B, and now if your KJ leaves to help on A, she's out of range of her turret in garage. So your Sova can't leave, right? Your Sova has to stay here. He can't go over to A to help, because if he leaves, they can very easily sprint in through garage into C. And so your Sova's kind of put in this weird position that if he doesn't stay here, then they have a very easy sight hit on C if they decide to call a rotate. And so again, overall, I would rather see this type of a setup because one, it's a standard setup. I'll be honest, it is a very standard composition, but it's standard for a reason, because pairing this information that you get with Sova with the ability for Breach to set up your Jet is much more powerful than anything that Omen can do on this site over your Sova.
Ich bin ein bisschen
Dann
unter.
einfach direkt hier.
Ja.
Ja.
Scanning ahead.
So I don't like this dart. Again, turret. There's no need for this. I can't stress it enough, but every single round, it's important that as Sova, you try to play A side, not C side, unless you're trying to, you know, switch things up. If you've played it too often and you want to maybe change where you play, that's fine. But even then, I would say maybe go B and drone out of mid or something like that, right? But you don't want to be playing C as Sova. You let your KJ hold this information, or get this information rather, for you guys on C site.
Head.
Oh, huge.
Okay,
Oh mein Gott.
ich würd hier.
Sova 60 noch.
So,
Im Spike, im Spike, im Spike.
Spike down mid.
Sova vor Double 60.
Ich würd hier.
Super close B.
You've got drone, you could use that mid.
Ja. Hier im Spike.
Oh,
Yeah, you could have just drone mid from, you know, maybe right here, for example. So like if you would have come up here to this area in B and just droned out of mid, or even right behind this and just droned out of mid just to see if you can spot anybody. One, it saves your life, right? But two, it gives your team an understanding of where they might be wanting to hit, and then gives your Breach and your Jet an ability to scale wherever they need to scale, depending on what you see in mid as well.
natürlich. Da in der Corner war die Jet.
Spike down. Attacker
Immer noch
spawn.
Spike.
One enemy remaining.
Jet ist auch B.
Window.
Ihr habt zwei, oder?
Hast du YouTube Marius? Ja, ne?
Ja, wo den Spam, der war so geil.
Musst du erwarten.
Willst du auf
Also
meinen
cringe.
Contact swingen?
Lieber du auf
It's a
meinen, weil
good little crossfire. I love the high-low. This is perfect.
Oder wir,
Yeah,
wir
this
hatten
is
das
good.
zu zweit, ist euch egal. Also.
Because you know exactly where she is. She was mid, so. Yeah, great job. That was a good crossfire, good high-low call there. Again, I'm assuming you guys called that. I can't understand,
Yeah,
but
no,
Also wichtig.
Yeah.
Viel weg.
okay. So
Ja,
again, you're
das-
playing Sova and KJ on the same site. I would much rather see them play separate sites for maximizing the ability to get
holen,
intel.
dann- Ich kann retake mit Killjoy.
I like the call to retake with the Killjoy ult.
Eigentlich können wir einfach leaven.
Könnte der leaven, ja. Oder es spielt so, dass ihr wenigstens einen Engel hat und tot rauskommt.
Okay, so I want you to see what's happening here. And again, the reason that I think your defensive rounds as a team are not in your favor, right? So I think this is your KJ, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have your Breach, your Omen, and your Jet over here on A. Again, so one, Sova shouldn't be flanking or lurking or anything like that. Sova should be already over here with drone ready, shock darts ready, all of that ready to help the team on site. While KJ right here is locking down either B or garage or a mixture of all three of B, garage, and C. Again, you need to, as a team, understand your role and how important your role is to the overall composition. So these three right here should be best friends every single round. They should be best friends, following each other around, helping each other out. There are some rounds where you don't do that, right? And that's totally fine. Maybe your Breach wants to play C and help out KJ if they're like aggressively pushing C every round. But realistically, like these three right here need to be best friends. Right now, you guys are not synergizing utility at all, right? You're not allowing your Jet the space and the freedom to understand where people are, and then impairing them with something like a Breach stun or a Breach flash.
Die Entry jetzt, ey.
Ja, lass retake mit Ult.
Mir geht mein Setup down.
Spike planted.
Pass auf wegen Cypher lurkt, ne?
Yeah, so this is another reason you don't lurk as Sova, because now your team over here has to wait for you to get all the way over to them in order to get information on where the enemy team is as they get into their post-plant positions.
Das ist ein guter Trade.
Ich weiß nicht, wo der Cypher ist. Der könnte auch B sein.
Use trotzdem, oder? Ich meine.
Nein,
Scanning
das
ahead.
Timing, der ist B.
Ich hätte so ein
Muss versuchen, jetzt erst zu spielen.
Nice, okay. Killjoy Ult und go.
One enemy remaining.
Under.
Hatte ich, ja, ich flash under.
Nein, pass auf.
Nice.
Nice. Good retake in general, though. You guys got the Cypher. You guys were able to kind of retake it either way. So not bad, but again, just play a little bit more with your Jet, your Breach, with the teammates over on A. It's more beneficial for your team to be able to help them with the intel that you get.
Kann man auch Meter gehen?
Irgendwas machen.
Ja, ich glaube halt auch, dass die einfach. Echt halt schon mal.
I'm going to keep bringing it up because it keeps happening. Sova shouldn't be playing C, especially if your Killjoy has a turret here to get info.
Jet is crossed.
Die machen das sowieso.
Ich kann noch wieder Retake spielen mit Breach Ult, maybe. Nice. Ich kann Long einfach Jump spotten.
Lass mal C-Control holen.
So listen to all the comms that your team's giving over on A. Again, I don't understand them because I don't speak that language, but they are, I don't want to say panicking, but the tone of their voice is very obvious that they are trying their best to get information on A. Think about how much easier it would be if Sova was over on A, right? So instead of your team having to kind of jump peek this and run back over to short and say, hey, I didn't see anybody A short or A long rather, I'm going to kind of clear short, and then, hey, I don't think anybody is A. All you have to do is come over here as Sova, toss a dart, whatever
Revealing
lineup you
area.
have. If they shoot it, then you know they're there. If they don't, then you know that they're not there, right? Or that they could be playing further back into
Right
Garden,
here.
which in that case, okay, great. If they're playing into Garden,
Take flight.
I'm going to drone out now, and I'm going to see if I can spot anybody, right? If I see somebody in Garden, great, they're playing here. If I don't, they're not playing here. So again, I'm going to keep beating a dead horse here because I really do think it's the most important part of your defensive setup is you guys aren't playing to the strength of your composition. And that inability to play to the strength of your composition is leading to a lot of lost rounds, not because you guys are losing gunfights or anything, but because you guys lack the proper information early round to make any mid-round adjustments, right? So you're not rotating early enough because you're not sure how many people are hitting a specific site. You're not able to confidently set up your teammates that need to get the frags that they need to in the mid-round and execute phases of the round because you don't have the information to do that. and you're not able to properly rotate, not just because you don't have the information to, but because if you do, the way that you guys are playing from a formation perspective, with Sova and KJ over on C, somebody in B and 2 on A or 3 on A, is causing a massive gap somewhere in the map because of how many lanes there are. So you're not able to confidently rotate because of that either. Okay, so we're going to start off a few rounds deep here. I want you to realize or recognize how the KJ not playing their role to their fullest extent ends up making the round crumble a bit for the attacking side here.
Ohne Aufbaus.
Wir warten, die haben kein Geld.
Die haben
Ne?
gar kein Geld.
Die haben kein Geld, lass Stun sparen. Ja. Ich checke das einfach. Also ich. Das war einmal kurz. Was machen wir jetzt?
Ich kann Drohnen, Short.
Die werden Shorty spielen bis auf.
Gestunt.
Drohne.
Deploying drone. Right here. Enemy tag.
Hä, von hinten.
Ja, das
Spike down A.
Okay, so again, I talked about this at length in defense, but the composition that you guys have is not a bad one for Haven. It's very common to see this composition on attack and defense on Haven. What I think you all are struggling with, and specifically I think it's the Sova and the KJ on the team, is your ability to actually play that role to their strength on this map. So again, I mentioned this at the beginning. With Haven, there are 5 lanes that attackers can expose or attack, right? So there's C long, there's garage, there's B main, and then there's A short and A long. That also gives, if we look at this from the defender's point of view, that gives the defenders a bunch of potential areas to take space on the map, right? So depending on where you guys are attacking, there's a lot for them to take advantage of on defense when it comes to flanking or lurking or taking space elsewhere on the map. What I think you all are lacking is that your KJ shouldn't, there's no world where this KJ should be pushing with you guys into A, right? KJ should be on permanent flank watch until you guys get access to A, because realistically, think about it. What is this KJ going to do other than take fights? Right? There's no utility for the KJ to actually help you get onto site. Maybe she can throw a molly like back A if she knows lineups, or maybe throw one in heaven to prevent them from pushing it, or maybe back here to prevent them from pushing it. But realistically, the information and stalling power that she has back here. So let's say she puts her alarm bot like somewhere out here and then her turret right here, right? Now she's got all of this covered. So you know that they can't be coming, for example, you know that they can't be coming this way because they'll get seen by that. They can't be coming this way because they'll get seen by that. They can't be coming out of window because they'll get seen by the turret. And so you guys have full confidence that you can push into A without getting flanked because your KJ is watching it. However, your KJ is the one pushing the Sova drone here. So at one point, Sova pushes out a drone and starts droning A short. And the KJ is the one pushing with that drone, which is not how this should work. This should be your jet pushing out with that drone and your breach being able to maybe stun off of that drone. So for example, this is just a play that I'm like creating on the fly, right? But for example, let's say in this instance, your drone is coming out. You spot the fact that Sova's here. This breach stuns that lane right there. The enemy Sova is now stunned. Jet can dash, maybe smoke the right side here, get the pick, and you guys are set, right? That's an optimal situation. I know that there could have been somebody right here looking at short. There could have been somebody heaven looking at short. I understand that. But my point being, KJ is not the person that should be following that drone in. So that's number one. Again, the big issue I see with your composition is not the composition itself, but it's your comfortability with playing the specific comp that you have and pairing, you know, your initiators and your duelists. And 2 is KJ's not playing her role the way that she needs to play it on attack here, right? So ideally, if we're looking at like pro play or something, this KJ is going to be playing very passively, right? To keep this information or this utility alive, right? You want this to be up as long as possible so that the flank is fully covered. She might be playing back here in spawn. If the turret goes off, she can peek it and potentially look to see if she can stall whoever's coming out of window so that you guys can continue your push into sight, right? That's really KJ's job here, is anchor this back area so that you guys can take space up here. Okay, so the next thing I want to illustrate with your team, and the reason why I think your attacks and post plans are not working the way that you think they should be, is because I think that your attacks are a little bit too flat. And I'm going to show you what a non-flat attack round looks like from a pro play perspective, but just to kind of illustrate the concept, right? Let's say we have like a basic chart here where you have time here on the flat side, and then you have stuff that happens. This is the worst text ever, but you get my point. And stuff that happens is defined as things that are happening on the map, right? So somebody's going into garage and shooting out a turret. Somebody's pushing B main and shooting out the alarm bot or shooting out a cipher trip. There's a drone or a Sova dart going down a long or a short. Those are all things that happen throughout a round, right? So normally what you'll see is kind of a normal round or a good round will be, you know, things start off a little slow, so then something happens, and then it goes down a little bit, and then something happens again, and then nothing happens for a bit, and then maybe you have your site execute, and then nothing happens after the site execute, and then everything happens after, right? Like there's a general flow to a game. That's not to say the flow is always the same, right? In some cases it might look like that, in some cases it might look like this, and in other cases it might, you know, look crazy, right? So that is the most like basic dumb example of what I mean by flat. But I want you to see how when you push into C site here, so your jet is going to get onto C site, you guys are going to get control, and then you're going to plant, and then you're going to quickly lose fire there when you're on the site. And it's because your round was so flat that the enemy team still has so much utility to get back into sight and stomp you guys once you guys are on there. And then again, I'll show you what it looks like in a pro play setup.
Push gerne Flank. Wenn wir A faken, kriege ich maybe den Kill auf den Cypher und das könnten wir dann zum Rotaten benutzen.
Ja.
Aber meistens Flank pusht das erst, wenn die was haben. Oder wenn wir was haben. Die aufspielt Garage.
Das ist das Ziel langsam hoch. Ah, Setup auf C.
Revealing area.
Stark.
Ja, Flash Backside. Einer CT.
Enemy spotted C.
Okay, so you guys got control of site using all of your utility here.
Das ist
The Omen now TPs into C long, which surrounds you entirely to stay onto site.
Ah, der wird wahrscheinlich flankt.
And this is where being flat in your attack starts to have its impact, right? So you're going to get hit with the Sova dart, you're going to get hit with a breach stun, you're going to get hit with the breach flash. All of those pieces of utility could have been baited out earlier in the round if you would have poked and prodded around the map to get them to start using it. But now they have it fully for this retake.
Yes, Flank.
Digga.
Last player
gut,
standing.
Digga.
Okay, so like I mentioned in this pro game, 100 Thieves is attacking here, Sentinels is defending. I want you to realize and understand just how active they are on attack here. They start off by pushing garage, getting rid of the KJ turret. They make their way to B. They get rid of the KJ alarm bot. And then they eventually make their way over into A short and A long, and they attack A. With all of that activity that's happening, I want you to understand and look at specifically what that does to the KJ, the breach, and the Omen, and how that forces these three to play this area of the map because of the fact that they're being active here. It also forces the KJ, breach, and Omen to start using their utility earlier in the round to make the retake harder. Something that I think you all struggled with, like I mentioned, is being too flat on attack. So if you called, hey, I want to come into A, your whole setup was let's all move in through A long and A short. Let's not pressure mid at all. Let's not pressure garage at all. Let's not pressure C long at all. And so all of the defenders could very comfortably rotate and help out, which left you at a disadvantage. Whereas here, because they pressured garage, because they pressured B main, because they were active in those regards, these other 3 players on defense had to respect that and weren't able to rotate on time to help on A site.
These members. Asuna's ultimate back up. Second one we're getting in this half. I don't think we have any much to rebuttal here on the side of Sentinels. In the first, slower round we're seeing here from 100 Thieves.
I'm trying to use potentially a decoy or a shield, something to break util once again inside the garage. There's that decoy, spots a turret, wastes out the first nano swarm, and it's been the story pretty much so far for 100 Thieves. Those nano swarms that are popped very early from that util coming out from Asuna doesn't give them too much to hold towards the C side after.
And normally loss of garage doesn't feel bad, but for some reason the way 100 Thieves is playing it kind of feels bad for Sentinels, right? Usually you either play site or just in back of garage, but the way that 100 Thieves is exploiting that, or they push somewhere else or use garage for fake info, has been really, really good. So a minute left in this round. They're going back to toying with this utility at the front side of B as they're still all the way across the map. And no gate crash to travel either.
And right now, Sentinels were looking to find information at the mid-round, and Aldrone came out towards long, but it was blocked by smoke on the attack, so they have to play in the unknown. It gets checked in the corner here from the dimensional drift. Second forced to dash away, at least makes it out to safety, but there's a TP coming from the back, and he's now pinched and sandwiched from both angles, and EU gets the kill off the Saucy, though, towards the back of the side. Celsius with the support from Graffiti as they all fall down. And now trying to fight back, but that pesky shield up from Cryo gives a chance now for 100 Thieves to convert the round and continue the lead by 2.
This last round here is a perfect example again of how I think your rounds are a little too flat on attack. You guys want to scale up into C. You successfully get access to it, but because of how flat your round is, right? Again, not going around the map, not trying to bait out any sort of utility from the Breach, from the Sova, from the Omen. You guys end up in a situation where you get the plant off, but it's not your post plant that's the problem. It's your mid round and initial start of the round where you're leaving too much utility on the board for them to retake for you. So I want that to be really clear. Watch how when you get access to site here, you get hit by a Breach ult, you get hit by a Breach aftershock as well. You get hit by, I think, a Breach flash at one point. Your team gets hit by a Sova dart. There's just way too much utility to overtake back into site because you guys didn't bait that stuff out earlier.
Ich drücke einmal, dann. Also wenn wir die mit der Drohne spotten, also wenn du die tagst, dann ulti die einfach. Len.
Ich hab keine Drohne.
Warte,
Ich hab keine Drohne.
Ah, shit.
Kann aber auch echoen und dann ult.
Die haben es gesehen, Da, Backside, Backside. Ja. Einer ist Garage auf jeden Fall.
Planted.
Ich glaube, der hat einen Open.
Ja, das ist ja, Oder? Ne, hier Ult. Die rennt raus. Smoke an.
Glaube ich, meine Molly gemacht.
Immer die Drohne weg.
Off your feet!
Ah, GG.
Beide City.
Last player standing.
Das ist die Jet noch bekommen. 20 ist low. Ah.
I hope this was helpful for you all to watch. Again, structured Valorant like this is much different than your ranked games, so try to take what you can, but realistically, this is more for informational purposes for those of you playing ranked. If any of you are playing things like Premier or 5-stacking pretty regularly, then this can definitely apply. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.